Hey, Lucky. Mute.
I'm muted. Hello, how you doing?
I'm okay. It's been a lot of meetings today. I am tired.
Yeah, and it's still early in the day, I guess, unless you're in a later time zone.
Uh, I'm in the Pacific time zone, and I've been in meetings since 6 o'clock today.
Oof. Yes, I do not envy that.
You think that's bad? Kate Stewart is in meetings to talk to European folks as well as Asian folks. So she is covering the whole time zone.
Both sides of
The
the coin,
global, global time zone thing. So
yeah.
that sucks, and I also do not envy that. And
Yeah, definitely. There's still a lot of pressure on changing the way that we work to, become more asynchronous, and that's a constant battle with our innate nature to do everything synchronously with people. So it's really hard. And I always like to say, well, wait until there are people on Mars. Imagine having to deal with that. It's not going to be like The Expanse where you just flip open your iPhone and be like, I'm just going to send a message to somebody through a ring on the other side of, no, sorry, spoiler alert.
I still have to watch that.
No, when you watch it, it's like, imagine if communications across galaxies and everybody's awake at, the opportune time to send a message and send a response. They don't kind of tackle the, interplanetary communications, not going to be fun. It's hard enough, on one planet.
Speed of light, faster than speed of light communications.
Yeah, faster than speed of light. Everybody's walking around with an iPhone and, oh, there's somebody on Venus today. Let me just send them a quick message and they get straight back to you. But they do say it's recording.
It is funny how they make those recordings seem, they
like instantaneous.
Yeah. 2001 and 10, I think, is the last time there's a couple of movies that have done a good job with that.
Yeah.
What was the other one where they go into space and they travel? And they end with everything's in the bookshelves and lost.
Oh, don't be given spoil. That's what's it called? Interstellar.
Interstellar, yeah.
Yeah. That was a good one.
I really like that one overall, but they did that whole bookcase thing was like, we don't know how to reconcile this, so screw it. Let's just
it's like, how are we going to explain crossing the event horizon of a black hole? Maybe just you and a robot behind a bookcase. That'll work. And everyone goes, yes, that's it. Cool. See folks joining. I'll add a link. Thanks for people putting their name as attendees. Would anybody like to be note taker? I've been trying to note take myself, but I'm realizing I'm hitting the limits of my own capacities while talking. Single threaded run queue of one human being I am. So would anybody like to take notes? Just place your name in there. You get the illustrious honor of having your name in a separate section called the note taker section.
It's hard to turn down having your name in a separate section. I'll be note.
Thanks, Jason. I was like, if I put something there and we'll create an award for it, note taker of the year.
Brandon beat me to it.
Oh, Brandon. Okay, well, thanks. I'm glad to see there's some competition. Teamwork. Okay. The only rule is you can't do it 2 weeks in a row. Okay, so keep everybody accountable to that.
Don't
break that rule the second week.
Do you want to keep rotating roster of note takers, Lucky?
I think let's just make a call at the beginning of the meeting, and hopefully somebody can come and help out. Okay, I think we have enough folks here to get started. Hello, what day is it today? Oh, it's the 25th of January. Didn't that go by quickly? 25th of Tuesday, the 25th of January, 2022, just for the recording's sake. Hello and welcome to the OCI Working Group for Reference Types. Welcome everybody, great to see everybody here. And I've placed a link in the chat with the agenda and meeting minutes. If you'd kindly place your name under the attendees list, that would be very much appreciated. First on the agenda today, and we're going to get straight into it. Thanks for note taker of Brandon Mitchell and Jason hall next week. If you're here with the illustrious second silver medal emoji there, I didn't even know there was one of those, but thanks for adding it. Agenda-wise today, we have 3 agenda items. First one is Josh going to present an idea for generic scenario. Second, I was going to present feedback on the review of the proposals, documents. There was Nisha's and Dan's, which covered the first 2 proposals. And then I was going to make a mention that I'm out next week, so have somebody else run this meeting because it's Lunar New Year. So I'm out doing some stuff for that. That'll be fun. But we'll get into it. Josh, you take the reins.
Sure. Let me know. Can you see?
You see something, but it is really, really big. I just see click to exit full screen. Loading. And now I see Glenn and Larry's ice cream.
Okay, that's what I want to show.
Let's see what happens when the.
How about now?
No, it says click to exit full screen. You might just have to do click through.
You have to, in Google Slides, you have to go to the presentation mode and then share that screen that's presented. So you have to reach.
Thank you very much. No, that's not that. Sorry for these technical difficulties.
It is okay, Josh. They are obligatory.
Yeah. Let me, you just saw my desktop there, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, let me see if I can use the same browser as you, a different browser. Hey?
You got it.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so I mentioned this at the end of the call last week, but and this is, I want to get a lot of feedback on this, but this is just an idea based on sort of the direction we were going last week with, can we detach specifics about what we're trying to do with this working group and come up with a fun parallel so we can kind of get along. So this presentation is very short. It's called Glenn and Larry's Ice Cream. And just to put a little background on why I think something like this might be worth our while to introduce. Basically, over the past few years, it feels like there has been, for lack of better words, politics in trying to make progress in these specs. And, I think it's healthy to, people who are on this call are in competition with one another from a business perspective. And you can't blame people for wanting to succeed, but if we cannot detach what we're trying to succeed from a business perspective from what we're trying to achieve in the spec, then I think we're put in a position where we're in a conflict of interest to accept other people's proposals. And so I present to you Glenn and Larry's ice cream company as our friendly example. And I decided to look at this first from a persona. So who are all the people who are dealing with the ice cream and what do they want to do with it? So the very first step in the ice cream process is the dairy farmer, or the people who are making the raw ingredients to create the ice cream. So this might be like the people who are maintaining an open source project. So they, get the raw cream ready and then ship it out to the people who actually put together the ice cream. Next is the ice cream factory worker, the person who assembles the raw ingredients and puts it into a container and makes it, by container, I should say a carton, and makes it ready to be handed off to like the truck drivers or the people shipping it around. And for this person, I would make a parallel to the actual teams who are building custom software applications and components, the people who are shipping containers to a registry, for example, with custom software. The refrigerated truck driver, or the person who's responsible for taking the ice cream from the factory to the person purchasing it. And this, I think, is actually the hosted registry, right? This is taking the custom software and getting it to where it needs to go. And so this specific persona, I think, applies to people on this call more than the other ones. Although I think what we're trying to design is something that touches all of these different pieces of the puzzle. The owner of the bodega, so the person who gets the ice cream from the truck and then puts it on the shelves so that people can consume it. And this is a little bit hard to like tie to a person, but I would say this is like your production environment. This is where this is what's actually hosting your application. You could look at it if we're looking from like a security angle. You could say this is like a Kubernetes admission controller, the person who determines what's on the shelves or what can go on his shelves. And then the ice cream lover, this is the person who actually consumes the ice cream. And this, I think, is the actual end user of the software. This is the person who's clicking through your application and, you know, basically using the software. They don't know if it's containers, if it's hosted here or there. They just want it to work well and taste good. And then this is sort of an interesting person. This is the last one, and it's the health inspector. And this is someone who might, at various stages in the process, from the all the way from the farmer to the factory to the truck to the bodega, is making sure that the ice cream is safe for your consumption. And to me, this is like maybe your CISO or your security team or somebody who's auditing your environment for any issues with the ice cream. And so I think one of the challenges with this is I don't want to get caught up in what you know, a specific ice cream carton might tie to the specific things we're doing, SBOMs and signatures especially. And so like I propose something like this, but I think it's worth discussion. You might look at a pint of Glenn and Larry's as a deployable component. So not just a container, but anything that makes it run smoothly and makes the, you know, ice cream lover able to pick it off the shelf at the bodega. The actual ice cream itself, we can just say vanilla ice cream, no toppings. Maybe that's a container image. The actual toppings, maybe those are things that make the ice cream more, I maybe want to eat it more, or I'm more able to eat it. This is a bad one, but I was trying to come up with what might be the toppings, and maybe that's things that help it deploy. So like a Helm chart or a Terraform module. The dairy or the milk, or even like the chocolate, the raw ingredients for the ice cream, I would think of that as the actual building blocks of a container image. So you're looking at things like Alpine, Go, Curl, like the things that we're scanning images for all the time. This is an easy one, but the nutritional facts of on the back of the pint or the ingredients list, that might be an SBOM. An SBOM might also be a larger list of things that the truck driver has that's in the truck on that day. And then for signatures, I would think this is sort of comes down to the sign off between the factory and the person who's distributing them. So when I'm talking to the registry here, so the truck driver, I'm basically saying this stuff is good. Okay, go take it to the store. So here's where I think this is my kind of call to action. So, oh no, the truck driver is in trouble. A disgruntled ice cream lover has threatened the truck driver, and they said, "My child ate some ice cream yesterday, and now they have a tummy ache. You have less than 10 seconds to give me a list of every Glenn and Larry's pint produced in the last month containing milk produced by Lasker Farms, or I will end you." Unfortunately, the truck driver lacked the technology necessary, and they're now dead. So in conclusion, we need better trucks so we can save lives. We need something like this. We need an iPad on the truck that can tell you everything about what's in there and any type of information a truck driver may need to know in order to not get killed. And and that's my presentation.
That's strawberry, right? That's not blood. That's strawberry.
This is strawberry Glenn and Larry's. I'm gonna. Any questions?
I think
Round of applause
actually
there.
hands up, raised hands.
I'm gonna
Misha?
post this. I'm gonna post this in the notes so people can peruse.
Thanks, Lucky. Would you recommend, Josh, that we start using these in our proposals?
Well, first I want to just get. I kind of want to just get a gauge if like people think this is just silly and going to distract us. But yeah, I think as we're coming up with proposals, I guess my idea is that instead of talking about, oh, this is going to, enable an SPDX thing here, this is going to enable a cosign signature here, we talk about it in these types of terms, so that we don't get too tied to the one implementation. Lachlan?
Thanks, Josh. I was just going to say, I think it's good to put names to all these things. I also wanted to get a read on the room. What are the bits, like if we are to use these names, I think just having a glossary of terms and an example like you had with the truck driver heist or whatever you're going to call that, would make it more tangible. But getting a read of, I think getting the succinctness and making sure we only have a list of vernacular that we only need, because I was kind of writing down and mentally framing everything as you went through. And, it's like, do I need to talk about the farmer, the dairy farmer, or am I really just talking about the pint of ice cream, the toppings, the ingredients, and the nutritional facts in the truck? So it was just like, what are the actual vernacular that I need to do the mapping in my mind? Because, this is one layer of abstraction that, my brain's going to have to pass and understand how I would talk about this. And I think it leads nicely into the next agenda point that I was going to bring up. And I might try and rationalize and help me talk about it through the lens that you presented here. But really, I think everybody would have to agree, and we'd have to document at least an example and at least the most pertinent pieces. Because I think, of My only feedback is there's a lot of terms there, and I'm not sure all of them are needed to describe this flow. They might be. So getting it down to the most succinct list of the ones we actually need is probably going to help me, but you know, this is first blush.
Yeah, I agree. And I think certain people on this call may have better context on what we're trying to get at, or may have disagreements or what we're trying to get at with reference types. And my personas thing, I think I'm pretty proud of that, as like, I do think that lays out the different people, but it's like, who are we really trying to help with this working group?
Nisha, did you lower your hand?
Yeah, I think I did lower my hand because Josh had answered a particular concern that I had.
Yeah, I was wondering whether it might make sense just to pop that slide back up with the, you know, one pint of Glen and Larry's, the ice cream itself, and just try and talk through that together and see exactly, because I felt like maybe some impedance mismatches between like nutritional facts and toppings. They're a little blurry for me. And do we need both? And if the answer is yes or no. And then is the, you know, as the truck driver's pad of paper, this is the thing, you know, is maybe a one-to-one mapping of these things would help me.
I have my hand up. Just I still don't know whether the rest of this group is in agreement that separating specific concerns into generic concerns using these terms is a good idea.
I think,
And I understand that too.
go ahead.
No, I'm done.
Okay. I think there will be times when being specific will be helpful for clarity, and there are times that being generic will be helpful for clarity. I think the thing that this makes easier is that if we can standardize on the generic one, then we won't have some people talking about ice cream and some people talking about cakes and some people talking about pudding, and you know, like, if we all have the same canonical made up one, we can agree on what those are. I really don't want to get into a conversation about whether toppings are Helm charts or dairy and milk or Golang. Like, that's not helpful to me. How the analogies line up, I think, is a waste of time. But there will be times where we need to talk about SBOMs because SBOMs are also signed, and that breaks the analogy, any analogy we come up with. So I'm all for having a canonical generic example, so that when we go generic, we can agree on what those are. But it's going to break down sometimes, and we need to talk about the specific thing. I think, Josh, to your point about, like, I really don't want to get, if we ever find ourselves in a conversation about SPDX versus Cyclone, or cosine versus other formats, or a specific format for A versus specific format B, then like that's a rat hole that we need to get away from. But talking about SBOMs and signatures is useful sometimes. Talking about dairy and nutritional facts and pads of paper is useful sometimes. I think it's useful having one canonical made up one to all agree on that we're all talking about the same thing. So I'm for this, and
Yeah,
I like a good story. So yeah.
I appreciate that, and I think really my goal here is not to talk about ice cream. My goal is that, like, this working group will make strides, because I think there's some doubts about whether that's possible, given like the history with issues kind of ending up commented on for years and nothing happening. So anything, like any parameters, like Jason, like you're saying, like once we start talking about SPDX for Cyclone, like maybe we can have something in this working group where we have like a no list. Anything that can, I don't need to talk about ice cream. This is just my call to let's get stuff done here. Go ahead.
Sajay, you can go ahead of me.
I think the spirit is very much in line with how many of these OSS projects even came up, right? Like you want to be vendor neutral. There are competing OSS projects here as well that's coming up in the same light. So if we call out in the mission statement that this is not just vendor neutral, but almost like specific opinion neutral in some way, and it takes OCI forward, that's the motivation of this whole analogy drawing from trying to avoid the specific implementation the way I see it. So I think it's good to have, this is generic enough. And the moment there are conversations that are aligning with specific implementations, we can clearly say that the mission statement wants to avoid any attachment to any of the other projects. Maybe that's a much more clear definition for anybody coming to the project itself. And these analogies will help with generic scenarios. But I do want to thank Josh for putting together this, because it's really easy to kind of look at nutritional facts and say SBOMs. I just love that analogy. It's very simple to kind of take away. So that was really cool. Thanks.
Thank you.
I just add that I agree that I think the pieces, like whether it's to Jason's point, it doesn't matter whether it's Cyclone or SPDX or some other format, and it shouldn't matter. I think the approach that we've been trying to take is it shouldn't even matter whether it's a signature, an SBOM, a scan result, a policy, an attestation. The whole idea is, can I incrementally add things to something in the registry? Because I'd argue it doesn't have to be container images also. The root might be an SBOM is the root artifact that got pushed to the registry that I then want to sign and put attestations to. So the SBOM might be the top object, regardless of it. But I think similar to I can figure out files on disk by looking at the extension, we need a way to differentiate those different types so that I can get the specific ones out. Like I want the my SBOM formats out of the registry once for the ice cream image or whatever it is we're trying to do as the reference here. I think that's, if we deal with that, then you've got the project neutral abstractions. But your analogy of the truck, I mean, if you look at shipping containers, when the shipping container industry started, it was like, don't really care what you put in it. Here's a definition. And that's what I think we're trying to figure out with reference types is, what is the definition of a reference type? And then it doesn't matter what the reference type is. It could be Josh's pictures of how he used a particular ice cream or something. I don't know.
Yeah, just to like, I think you have a point there, and I think probably why I had trouble with this, with this slide is because when I had this idea last week, it was maybe we don't need to think specifically about SBOMs or specifically about signatures. And we talk more about sprinkles and whipped cream and like things that don't really have a parallel. But I just don't know the proper, like there's very specific things about SBOMs that make them useful. And I don't know the right way to design this thing to enable all of those use cases, but also make it generic enough to apply across the board. Laki or Nisha or whoever wants to.
Yeah, I was just going to say, let's start to, wrap this up in the next 5 minutes. My questions would be, where do we take this and put it and document it? And just some guidelines around the usage or something. We just want to make it durable if we agree on this. And I'm not sure if we can agree on it at the moment, but from everything I hear, I'm in alignment with what Jason said. I think the other thing to encourage people with is, yes, this is taking a lot of time, but the US Constitution was written in less than a month, and this is much easier than that. So if we can't agree on, and that was 10 rules. You know, so we, you know, if we can't agree on something like this in an amount of time, I'd encourage us to say, hey, we can all come together and get something out of this, and work together to resolution. So, you know, I'm looking forward to that, and I hope that we can do that and encourage each other to make decisions.
Go ahead, Nisha.
So I was going to say, can we have this this slideshow somewhere so we can comment on it?
It's linked from the
muted.
notes, I think. I didn't check it. Yeah, there's a link in the notes.
And
Still muted, Josh.
one more thing, Lucky, I was wondering if if you'd like to encourage folks to, you know, maybe see yourself in an ice cream pipeline scenario and find yourself in there, and maybe be able to come up with a thing like, you know, oh, I'm the health inspector. I'm the ice cream lover and the ice cream, you know, producer. I'm the artisan ice cream person. I'm salt and straw.
Yeah, I think that's what maybe it might come to, is having just 2 or 3 documented scenarios like Josh had with the truck driver, using the words you proposed, and maybe just having them added to the repo, their generic use case, as a good next step, unless we want to give everybody a week to comment on the doc and any feedback, and then we can make a decision what we would like to do for next steps.
I like Josh's next step. Let's just get stuff done.
I can try to get some form of this, if it's just the personas or something else, into that repo, whether it's in the README or some other markdown, just to capture it. I think, like Nisha's saying, like being able to come into the group and be like, oh, I'm actually the dairy farmer or this or that. I hate to take more time on this ice cream topic if there's more to talk about here. Thanks, everybody.
Ship it. Thanks, Josh. I appreciate you putting the time into that, and look forward to seeing the output of your work in the repo. So let us know how it goes. Okay, next item. So I had an action item last week to start looking at. Actually, there was Jason, Nisha, and myself had an action item to start looking at the proposals and start requirements gathering. So I've placed 2 links of documents that I reviewed in addition to the initial proposals. And I wanted to just give some feedback on how I was thinking about this and start a discussion about how we could start to break this set of challenges down. So let me give you that feedback, and then we can have any questions. If folks have questions, just place your hand up. So I read through Dan Lawrence's doc on the review between the 2 proposals, which was, you know, really good. I encourage everybody to go take a look at that. And I also read Nisha's doc as well. And when I finished with reading all those docs and the proposals, I started thinking to myself, you know, we're all talking about the fields and the versioning and garbage collection, but nobody's talking about what the UX is, or what actually the experience should be to an end user when they're interacting with these types of, you know, SBOMs or signatures. And sorry, I can try and use the ice cream vernacular soon. So I think I was very interested in, rather than working on fields and changes to API specifications, would it not serve us well to say, as a user, I can do this, this, and this. These would be my expectations. And for example, I was thinking about, in the context of those documents, if I was to, that you could read the requirements, but they're not explicit. As a user, can I push an SBOM to a registry? And I was looking back at the mission statement, which was to describe and query those references. So if I was to query a reference, would I say, what are the references to this container image? Or, what toppings or what nutritional labels go for this ice cream? Should I actually say, how would I get that information back out? And I thought that would be really interesting to try and nail those requirements down, because everything would flow from that. So what is the user expectation? And what are we designing here from an API level? And then getting into the, different weeds, because when I did read the 3 different proposals there, it's, when new manifest, old manifest with version, describing garbage collection, not describing garbage collection, there wasn't too much differences down in the weeds of how it could be done. But I just thought maybe us discussing what we expect as, either as registry providers or end users of the behavior that we're expecting the registry to fulfill, or the client, and making a decision as to how to do that. So that's what I kind of came out thinking, was I can't, reason one proposal over another without actually having a list of requirements. And when I started thinking about requirements, it was, if I push an SBOM, should I be able to say, does this image have an SBOM, or is there any SBOMs for this image? Or do I say, who has an SBOM? Or, so that level of granularity wasn't evident to me, at least from the API level. So I'll pause there, but my recommendation is, how do we get to requirements? It seemed to be more a challenge with me understanding what this referrer's API would actually be responsible for filling, than it was about, lines in JSON fields and manifests and how they interact. So that was my takeaway, is to start with requirements, and then we could go down and reason. Pausing, Jason has his hand up.
Yeah, I think it's hard. I think you are correctly identifying that it's hard to design this API, because fundamentally real human users will never see it. They don't see layers, they don't see descriptors, they don't see media types. I hope to God they never see it, because it's awful down there. They just want to Docker build something, push something, pull it, run it. All the stuff that we do behind the scenes to make that, content addressable and efficient and fast and good, hopefully, is invisible to them on purpose, because we just never want anyone to care about this. So it's hard to design the API to hopefully never be seen. But I think it's worthwhile, like you were saying, to think about what are some scenarios we want people to be able to do. I think it's even, I'm going to violate the rule we just put in place and talk about specifics and not ice cream. But I don't even think users want to say, give me images that have SBOMs, right? They want to say, oh no, there's a log4j problem. Give me all my images that I know contain log4j at this version.
And that's what we should document, right?
Yeah.
I was just giving, so we should say, is that's the UX we're hoping for here, and then start from there, I think.
Which means even the existence, the concept, the definition of SBOMs is also invisible to the end user. They don't know whether it was in format A or B, and they don't know how it was attached, and they don't know how it was stored. They just want to am I going to die from this? Yeah. Is this ice cream going to kill me? They don't want to know how that information is there and who came up with it. So
Ice cream can kill you.
I mentioned ice cream, and so of course. Anyway, I will cede my time now.
Nisha?
So I had started this summary document that just gathers up all the proposals together. But what I was hoping to get this time around is that particular thing that you mentioned, Lucky, which is requirements. And it seems like our first requirement is user stories to be able to apply these proposals to. And since we have now a framework to talk about these user stories, thanks to Josh and his wonderful ice cream story, we can probably we can probably use that and write a bunch of user stories in these documents, in this summary document anyway.
Thanks, Nisha. Yeah, I think that's where I'd like to go. That would be my suggestion. And, I did read through your document. The thing that wasn't clear to me, and, I'm as thick as two planks, is whether you were suggesting an abstracted model of the first two proposals or an entirely different proposal that was more generic. So I was like, is Nisha writing another proposal, or basically taking both the Dan's and Steve's initial proposals and writing a generic, this is what we're trying to solve?
I'm sorry, Lucky, if that wasn't clear. I did both.
Okay, so it was both. All right. So yeah, I was trying to understand there, and then reading yours, I was like, okay, is this proposal 3 that I'm rationalizing here? And if so, again, what are the requirements? Because I think the requirements are really going to allow us a framework to make decisions as to how the implementation was there. Because what I gathered from the different implementations is there wasn't too many differences under the hood, and they might all meet the same requirements, but it would help us at least determine what's in and out of scope. But I just, again, the APIs, as Jason was saying, is what user stories are these powering? And because these things are going to be invisible to the user, presumably. So that would be my suggestion is, could we start to hash out user stories? Maybe we add a section to your doc, Nisha, and come back next week and start to work through the user stories, because I think what it's going to go down to is somebody reads a user story and people will say yes or no, or yes, but, or no. And then we refine that like we did the mission statement. And then from there, we can use that to apply the, because things like garbage collection and other things can be rationalized through those requirements as to whether we need to, deal with those things. I see your hand, Nisha.
Yeah. So did I understand correctly that our action is to write down a bunch of user stories and have the group look at them before the next meeting?
Oh, sorry.
I'm here.
That was, yeah, thanks, Brandon. That was my suggestion, just one suggestion in reading it, because I think that's actually where we need to get to as a working group, is what do we think this API is going to do, not what fields need to change is secondary to that, and in what manifests and how we version things and what happens with garbage collection or not. It was more just, I feel like that's a great starting point, and I feel like everybody who has a stake in this and is interested in defining what that refer as API behavior allows, users to do, having us go and walk through them, much like we did the mission statement, we're going to be able to weed out where the differences are and determine if we agree or disagree, and then accept a set of user scenarios. And then from there, we can go back and look at the proposals and fit them into those, meeting those specific requirements. Again, just my suggestion. I'm not spokesperson for everybody. I just think, that's going to serve us better in the long term when we really can have, say, hey, are we meeting the needs of this UX? Otherwise, we don't need to discuss it, or this scenario. And that's going to help us in, nickel and diming over every implementation. It's just, that is the agreed on requirements. We will build the API to those requirements and, move on. Are there any other views? Again, just one perspective. But my goal is flip it on to what are the requirements rather than what are the fields. Because when I read everything, it's what are the fields and how are the fields implemented and what version and new manifests, old manifests, things like that.
Myself, I tend to find I do both simultaneous. And so it's sometimes easier for me to come up with what the requirements are as I'm reading through someone's implementation, saying this is what I get out of this implementation. So
that's
goes
a
both
good
ways.
point, Brandon, and I think that's valuable. And I think there's enough in the proposals there that you could synthesize out the requirements. So if that's the way that you like to do those things, I suggest you. So how about, I'm just going to put a proposal for an action item here is I'm going to work with Nisha to open up Nisha's doc to add requirements, and everybody just add your requirements that you see fit, however you like to get them there. Add your name at the end. And then the next meeting, we're going to start to walk through them and see if we can, see relationships between them and whittle them down and reduce them into a set that we all agree on. And then from there, we can go back and reevaluate the proposals. I'm seeing some nodding and thumbs up in agreement. Are there any other ways that we can do this? Just knowing that there's a lot of history here, there's a lot of, great proposals out there. I'm trying to understand how we can move forward here. And that's my suggestion. Okay, I see a couple of thumbs. Are we done? That's the action item.
Sounds good.
Anything else? Like, feel free to suggest other ways to do this. Because I know, we could all be at a bull in a gate and go start coding. But I really think doing this is going to serve us well in the long run.
Is Nisha okay with adding to that document, or should we start?
Yeah,
now?
Nisha, should we add to your doc, or should we just carve out another doc just with requirements and not stomp all over your doc?
No, you can stomp all over that doc.
Yeah, no, it wouldn't be specifically stomping on it. It'd be just adding another section that would be
Oh yeah,
scratched
yeah.
for
No,
people adding. Yeah.
That would work. Yeah.
Okay. So I will do that and post in the chat, and then we can have that as an agenda item next week. Is there anything else on this topic that would be helpful? Okay. The next agenda item is I'm out next week. Who would like to run this meeting? Sounds like we have an agenda, at least one item. So can somebody run that agenda, or we can also say, let's take 2 weeks to sort this out. And, you don't have to cancel the meeting on a part of me. If we want to keep going, I just won't be here next week. So as long as somebody can show up and run the meeting, that's really all I need to make sure that happens.
I think I can run it. I can be here.
Okay. You feel, yeah, with your sidekick?
Maybe I'll have help.
Now you're talking about ice cream, Dad. You told us you were working on something else, but apparently you work in ice cream manufacturing.
Stop saying that. Stop saying that.
Sorry. Keyword. Okay. Thanks, Jason.
I like how your kid is floating, what appears to be floating in air. I'm not exactly sure what's going on there, but that's awesome.
Ice
Okay,
cream,
that was
ice
it.
cream, ice cream, ice cream.
Stop it.
There we go. Summoned, the magic word. Is there anything else folks would like to discuss? I'd like to get us out here about 10 minutes early to give everybody a break before the next meeting. Cool. Well, I got marching orders. Thank you very much. Thanks, Josh, for putting that together. I know it does take a lot of time, so really appreciate you taking the time to put that together. Thanks, folks, and we'll see you same time, same place next week.
Thanks, everyone.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.